Hello, welcome to Microsoft Teams. Today's discussion is about Microsoft Direct Routing, and welcome again. So, let's start. Microsoft Teams is a actually service provided by Microsoft to communicate with other users, internal or external, like via chat, through calls, video calls, meetings, also collaborating their ideas discussion in a team. Like you can create a team and you can communicate, share ideas and documents and all. So now we have direct routing as a concept in with Microsoft Teams. Why do we need Microsoft direct routing, and how to plan it and how to configure it? We're going to check that for sure. So first thing, why do we need Microsoft direct routing? So, you will consider, you will think, who Microsoft do have their calling plans and like domestic, international. Also, they have their conferencing service provided by Microsoft. So, why do we need direct routing? So, direct routing means sometime in some of the countries, if you don't have calling plans available from Microsoft, if they do not provide calling plans, domestic, international, or any other service. So, what option you have? And still, if you want to leverage Microsoft Teams service, because Microsoft provide very good other services like SharePoint, Exchange, and also Teams for collaborating with others. Even if you don't have calling plans, you have an option to bring your own PSTN service. PSTN service means your PSTN provider, your service provider. Like in India, we have Airtel, Idea, Vodafone, and Reliance. They provide you the PSTN service. So if in case, I'm just taking an example, in case if in India we do not have calling plan, you can use your existing PSTN provider with Microsoft and leverage Microsoft services. So this is all about, this is the concept actually. Why you need Microsoft direct routing. And even if you want, like if you feel the prices are cheaper with other PSTN provider as compared to Microsoft, you can use Microsoft direct routing. You can keep both if you want. If you want, you can keep a setup like you can use direct routing. You can use a service provider which you have already, and also you can keep Microsoft calling plans for backup for your users. So we'll start. We will see. We're gonna see this each and every detail in coming slides. So the first thing is uh, why this is why what is Microsoft Direct Routing? So we are going to check that now. So the first slide we have is actually why what is direct routing? Microsoft Phone System Direct Routing lets you connect a supported customer provider session border controller to Microsoft Phone System. So in case if you have your existing service PSTN provider, like example Airtel, Idea, or Reliance, and you want to connect that with Microsoft, you need something, right, to connect it. So that is SBC, Session Border Controller. This is just it acts as a connector and which helps to configure this particular setup. We need that. We're going to see that SBC in detail in coming slides. So let's see. Why Microsoft Teams Direct Routing? As we discussed, why do we need Microsoft Teams Direct Routing? Oh, Microsoft calling plans is not available in your country. In case if you are in a country where Microsoft doesn't provide calling plans, you can use this facility, Teams Direct Routing. And if you want to check if your country has the calling plans or not, you can click on the link which I shown here and select your country, and it will show whether you have it or not. Your organization requires connection to third-party analog devices, call center, and so on. So if you have an already existing setup where you have your PSTN service or the service provider who is giving you the service for callings and everything, and you want to use that particular setup with Microsoft Teams, you can take advantage of that. So that is now you know what why do we need Microsoft Teams direct routing and what are the advantages of it. So the older version of direct routing, now you know this terms you might find new to you because earlier in with Skype for Business, it was CCE Cloud Connector Edition. So when we had Sky for Business and people with no, the country with no Microsoft calling plans, and if they wanted to use Microsoft Teams and other services, the option was CCE Cloud Connector Edition, but that is no more in support. Of I think the last date was 31st of July, 21, and this is how you will your setup will be if you have Microsoft Direct Routing. So the PSTN provider, as I said, this will be your telecommunication provider, your service provider, and a telephony trunk, which you will create. We are going to see that as well, how you can create a telephony trunk to connect your PSTN provider with your domain or with your SBC, session border controller. So SBC is nothing but a way to connect your PSTN provider, your PSTN service, existing PSTN service with Microsoft Teams. So this is an example, a diagram, a very simple diagram where you can see on the left hand side PSTN provider and a telephony trunk to connect with session border controller. In session border controller, you get a portal like a interface, a GUI graphic interface where you can set your configuration, your phone ranges. Also, you can set up your third party PBX, SBC, analog adapters, call centers, third party voice apps. If you have, you can take advantage of that and you can use it. So, internet and phone system with Microsoft and a Teams user. So, this is how it's gonna look like. We are gonna see this in detail in coming videos. So with direct routing, you can connect your SBC to almost any telephone trunk or interconnect. With third-party PSTN equipment, direct routing enables you to. So when you configure the setup with SBC and your third-party PSTN provider, whenever I say it means you're your service provider where you're getting the calling service. So what all things you get when you enable this? Use virtually and PSTN trunk with Microsoft Phone System. So Microsoft Phone System uh, will be there for you, which you can use your PSTN trunk with Microsoft Phone System. So it will be like a setup which where you will be able to leverage all your PSTN service with Microsoft Teams. We will be checking this point again when we will be configuring our this setup, the routing setup. Configure interoperability between customer-owned telephony equipment such as third-party PBX, analog device, and phone system. Okay, we're gonna see that. How conferencing will work with direct routing. So this is also a question. Like you are providing the calling service, but what about conferencing service? Like when a user is creating a meeting or getting added to a different meeting, how it will work. So when a user participates in a scheduled conference, the dial-in number is provided by Microsoft Audio Conferencing Service. So the service number which you will have while creating a meeting will be always from Microsoft, and which requires a proper licensing. So you should have actually audio conferencing service in order, like if you want to get a call back or dial out from a conference, you that if you have a proper Microsoft conferencing license, that will be used. In case if you do not have Microsoft conferencing license, then that call will be directed to SBC, to your session border controller. So now these are the small details. Now we'll check in order to configure this direct routing, how to set up, what all things you need, and have to be ready with these things to before you start setting up your direct routing. So first thing is actually a session border controller and SBC. There are certain certified SBC which we have in market, which are certified by Microsoft. There is a list. I have given the link. You can click on it, and you'll be able to see like there's Ribbon, Audio Code, and there are many. But you can check those SBC in the given link. Telephony trunk connected to the SBC. One or more telephony trunk connected to the SBC, like you need to create a trunk which will connect that particular PSTN provider with SBC. So we're gonna need that. So just keep in mind that telephony trunk is a connection which makes the PSTN service with SBC. That connects both of them. Also, you need Microsoft 365 and Office 365 organization. So this is also required because without this, the direct routing will not start up. You need organization. You need to purchase a tenant from Microsoft. Also, there are free trial tenant available, which you can test if you have. You can get it for 30 days. Also, I have that link in the comment section. You can click on it and you can get a free trial of 30 days. So, yep, you need a Office 365 tenant and user register. So, like Microsoft Teams direct routing is only possible to set up or to use it if a user is actually homed online. If he is homed online, that means in case if you have a hybrid setup, like you still have Skype for Business on premises and few user there and few user online, and you want to set up Microsoft Teams direct routing, the only one thing will be checked if that particular user is home on premises or online. If he is on premises, then it is not possible to use direct routing for that particular user. But if user is home online, you can. You can allow him or he can access direct routing. You can check whether that particular user is home online or on premises by using this command: get the CS online user identity, UPN of that particular user, and hosting provider. It should show sipfed.online.link.com. Domains. So one or more domains should be added to your Microsoft account, because with direct routing, you cannot use on Microsoft.com. So whenever you purchase a tenant with Microsoft 365, a subscription with Office 365, you get a default domain like on Microsoft.com with the name which you give at the time of subscription. So that domain will not work with Teams Direct Routing. You have to add a domain which is certified and that DNS has been published over the internet. That domain can be added in Office 365 and which can be used for direct routing. So other thing which you need is public IP address for SBC. Of course, yes, you need that because without that, your SBC fully qualified domain name will not be resolved or will not be functional, will not be able to use it anywhere. So public IP address is actually required, which you need to assign to that particular SBC. Fully qualified domain name, FQDN. We always use this particular term. SBC also need a FQDN, fully qualified domain name, where the domain which will be used to resolve that particular name and to reach that particular SBC from Microsoft Teams side, from Office 365 side, or from the external world. That FQDN will be used. DNS entry for the SBC, yes, we always need a DNS entry for any IP address or any FQDN to work. Without that, it will not be resolved over the internet. Certificate is always required, because without a certificate, it will not be proved that that particular SBC is genuine or it can be trusted. So there are few certificates which we are going to talk about that is required. One is Baltimore and there is one mother which is required at the time of the configuration. So just keep in mind that certificate is required. Without the certificate, that SBC will not be trusted. And connection points for direct routing. So connection points for direct routing are the following three FQDNs. So direct routing, whenever you're trying to use it, there are three FQDNs which comes into the picture. One is sip.pstinhub.microsoft.com. This is globally used, and priority should be higher for this, because always that query or the connection will go for this. In case if this is down, it goes to sip2pstinhub.microsoft.com, and both two, one and second is down, then it goes to sip3.pstinhub.microsoft.com. We're going to see that how it's going to work when we'll check the troubleshooting part and also the configuration part. Firewall IP address and ports of for direct routing media. There's become unique keys for the following service in the cloud. So SBC is actually communicating with a lot of services to get this query or the request done by the user to resolve or to complete the query. So there are certain IP addresses ranges which is required for firewall. Like it should be allowed in the firewall for the incoming and outgoing purpose. We're going to see that which all IP addresses are required. If you want to check that, there's a link given. You can click on it and you will be lead to the that particular article. So media transfer profile, how your media will act, how your media will flow. That the protocols which have been used is TCP, RTP, SAVP, UDP, RTP, and SAVP. So we're going to check that as well. So there is a link given for the firewall IP addresses which can be used. Licensing and other requirement. User of direct routing must have the following license assigned in Office 365 or Office 365. In case if these licenses are not assigned, your direct routing will not work. Audio conferencing is an optional, but still Microsoft phone system is actually mandatory, which you need it in order to have this set up. Microsoft Teams, yes. Skype for Business Plan 2 is included in license. So Plan 2 is actually included in Microsoft Teams when you assign it. Skype for Business Plan 2 is already there. And conferencing, you know why you need it in case if your user is trying to create a call, a meeting, and or he's trying to escalate a call into a meeting. And if he has a proper audio conferencing license, it will be done. And in case if it doesn't, he doesn't have audio conferencing license, that call will be escalated to direct routing setup, and the call will get complete for sure. So yeah, this is what I have just explained. Ad hoc call escalations. Like in case if you and me are having a call one-on-one, in case if I'm trying to add a third person, so this is going to be a conference. So we are escalating a call to a meeting or conference. So in case a direct routing user doesn't have an audio conferencing license, that call that this particular call will be routed through SBC. So, in addition, actually, you must ensure the following that CS online voice routing policy is assigned to the user. So, this is one of the way you can find whether that particular user is actually enabled for direct routing or not. CS online voice routing policy. Where you'll find this output when you do get the CS online user and identity UPN of that particular user, you will find this particular attribute there. CS Online voice routing policy, and it should not be blank. There should be something in front of it, like any name which you have given to that particular policy or routing policy. So, and also allow private calling is enabled at the tenant level. So we can check that whether allow calling private calling is enabled for that tenant. There are a few commands which you can use. And this one is actually, we already spoke. These are the connections which Office 365 does at the time of this setup, or when the setup is ready and the users are trying to send any query. SIP.pstinhub, SIP2, SIP3, priority will be the pstinhub.microsoft.com. And in case if it fails, it goes to 2 and 3. So, and these are the two IP addresses. Actually, it is in yellow. I'll show it again. And yeah, so will be this FQDNs will be resolved to the IP address from the following subnets. So you need to open the ports for all these IP address ranges in your firewall to allow incoming and outgoing traffic from the address signaling. So these are the two IP addresses in yellow and SIP signaling ports. You must use the following ports for Microsoft 365 Office 365 environment where you have direct routing. So traffic, as we have SIP TLS, and the ranges will be port from 1024 for to 65,535. SIP TLS SBC, and if for the this is for the incoming actually, from SBC to SIP proxy. SIP proxy is something which comes under Microsoft configuration, like Microsoft Teams configuration. When you will set up the direct routing, proxy is one of the component which we have, and SBC is that like a third party which we using, but the SIP proxy comes under us. So SIP proxy to SBC to SIP proxy, the incoming traffic will go on for 5061 port. So next video will be on how to configure direct routing. I will be completing a detailed section with PowerShell commands and also using the portal of SVC, how to configure direct routing. And I'm gonna do that. I'm also already working on it and I'll be completing it, and I'll be uploading it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Any question, you can type it in the command section. I'll be happy to answer everything. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye. Take care.